corporate governance rules and add transparency to corporate operations. So when I said a corporation has a lot of responsibility, I was not kidding. And Sarbanes-Oxley is part of that responsibility. So let's take a look at the ethics box about Sarbanes-Oxley. In my book, it's on page 543.
511.
Thank you. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time to read through this, and then we'll just kind of go through and I'll highlight the points a little bit for you.
Hey, sorry, Cindy. What did you say we were supposed to read again?
It's the ethics box. So under the Sarbanes-Oxley Act portion of the chapter 28, there's a box that says ethics. It's a tan colored box in my book. It says ethics, and then it says Sarbanes-Oxley Act improves corporate governance. So if you want to take a look at that one. In my book, it's on page 543. And Vanessa, what did you say?
511.
511. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure I was reading the right one.
This is why you see a lot less corporate fraud.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that was the whole point of the act. So I want to kind of point out on here that in a lot of these situations, it's talking about a publicly traded company. So instead of just being a corporation, it's a publicly traded corporation. So not a private one, but a public one. And the reason is because there are people out there that, and these are the corporations that are traded like on the stock exchange, and you can actually buy the shares that way, or through an agency or whatever. But this type of thing affects a lot of people, so they want to make sure that things are on the up and up, and that corporations are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And even after this act was passed, there were still violators, major corporations that were violators of this this new act. Like, for example, JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo Bank, Bank of America, AIG. So there are a lot of big corporate places out there that have issues. Also, I wanted to point out what Jack was saying. There's actually another box. It's called that talks about Sarbanes-Oxley, and it says business environment, Sarbanes-Oxley Act. Anyway, it talks about an audit committee. And the audit committee is something that's required for publicly traded companies. Just lost a couple people. The audit committee is required for publicly traded companies. Is everybody okay? Everything going okay?
I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm here.
Oh, good. All right. Good to know. Okay. So, so in this case, the statute says that they have to comply with certain things. So that audit committee has to come do an audit. It has to be an outside audit committee. It has to be like very, very big specifications. It cannot be someone within the corporation that does an audit. However, most of these corporations do have auditors, internal auditors, that they have audit first before the external auditors come in and audit, just to make sure that everything's on the up and up and they don't get in trouble. Because once that auditor catches something, there are going to be repercussions. So in some of these repercussions are, so that the CEO and the CFO have to actually certify that the audited copy is the quarterly reports are what they are, and they were done in, they've reviewed them and that they know what the information is in there. So they're actually liable for that. And then if there is something found, then they have to reimburse their bonuses. So basically they have to give back anything that they took. So their sales were off the charts, so they took a bonus based on their sales. It said if they made $1 million worth of sales, that they got a bonus. And so they took a bonus. Well, then they come back and audit and say, oh, you didn't make $1 million. You only made $500,000, which would be terrible. But if that's what happened, they would have to give those bonuses back. And because they're actually not, those bonuses don't exist really. So they can't have a personal loan. So some businesses, if you're publicly traded, you can't have a personal loan. So some businesses will allow they will allow loans given from the business to the officer or to the directors or executive members. So they will allow loans to be given, and if they're publicly traded, they're not allowed to do that. They have penalties for tampering with evidence. So if someone's coming into audit and all of a sudden, I'm shredding all this documentation, there would be penalties for that. If I also, tried to make the, like we used to do on report cards, right? Make that F look like an A instead. If I tried to do that and make it look better than it really was, then there would be penalties for that as well. You could be barred from acting as an officer or a director for anywhere. Like you cannot go anywhere and you cannot be an officer or a director because you are not acting ethically or whatever. So there's a lot of large repercussions for not doing the correct thing in a corporation. So it only applies to the public companies, but private companies and nonprofit organizations are also influenced by the act. So what do you think? Here's some ethics questions. Will the CEO and CFO certification requirements reduce corporate fraudulent conduct? What do you guys think? I mean, these officers of the company are now saying, I certify that this information is correct and it is, the best information ever. So if the auditor finds something and finds that it's not the best information ever, then it's going to come back on that CEO and CFO. Previously,
they're accepting liability by certifying, so absolutely it's going to reduce
right.
the fraud. Yeah.
Yeah, so previously there was no liability, so they didn't care, right? Oh, well, just put it out, just put out the quarterly statements. I don't care. I'm not going to review them. I'm not going to even think about them and just go ahead and put them out. And then what was happening is they were missing out on certain fraudulent activities that were happening within their company. They didn't notice that things were happening that shouldn't have been happening. So by giving that certification, they are putting they're liable, putting themselves on the line. So will the Sarbanes-Oxley Act promote more ethical behavior from corporate officers and directors? Yeah, I mean, there's penalties, there's all kinds of stuff happening here that requires these officers and directors to act ethically, and if they don't, then they're going to be penalized. So it's of course, it's a work in progress, as everything is, but it's evolving as we go along, and keeping these big, huge corporations from having situations where they have problems. So, all right. Let's take a look at your assignment. So your assignment is in Canvas too, but on page, in my book, page 546, but it's ethics case 28.7. So it starts out with Lawrence Gaffney, and it's Chelsea Industries Inc. versus Gaffney.
514.
Thank you. So this assignment is due next week before class. So you'll just read through it and do like normal on those assignments. Are there any questions?
Nope.
Sorry, which case is this again?
It's
The
not a
case?
case. Don't confuse it with the case. It's an ethics case. I did that last assignment.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes, it's not the case within your chapter. It's at the end of the chapter. The cases at the end of the chapter. There's critical legal thinking cases, and then there's a section for ethics cases. And so this is 28.7.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome. So it's 28.7 in your book. In my book, it's 28.8. Who is it that has my book?
I have your book.
Okay, so it's 28.8. So it's Lawrence Gaffney is what it starts out with.
Oh, okay. I see it.
Yeah, and it's Chelsea Industries Inc. versus Gaffney. And it's on page 546 in my book.
Cool, got it. Thank you.
All right, welcome. All right. If there aren't any questions, you are free to go, and I will see you next week.
Bye, Cindy.
Bye, thank
Bye.
you.
Hey,
Have a good
Cindy, how
night.
many more quizzes do we have? Did we already finish all of them, or we have one more left?
We have 2 more quizzes.
Okay.
We've done 3, so we have 2 more.
All right. Sounds good. Well, have a good weekend. Thank you.